Hi there, we're going to look today at the next topic, which is the concept of fluid viscosity. So, viscosity of liquids and gases according to particle theory, how we might measure it, and of course, how temperature affects it. If you remember the particle theory, well, the particle theory can help us explain the viscosity of a substance. Particles contain different forces of attraction, we know that. The more closely packed the particles, the greater this force of attraction. So one of the things that viscosity, or how thick a liquid is, has to do with stronger forces of attraction, which can then cause slower movement or flow rate. So let's look at this picture. Here's two different liquids. And what could we say about the viscosity of the green liquid compared to the white? Well, if we compared the two, we'd say this one has a low viscosity and this one has a high viscosity. High, low. Let's look at one more clip related to that. Let's look at this YouTube clip on viscosity. So here you see
Which of these fluids has the lower viscosity?
So if you notice, this honey here is taking a long time to fall or flow, and therefore it has a high viscosity. This has a low viscosity. So one of the tricky things about viscosity is hard to measure, and we usually use flow rate to measure it. Here's a gas, and one thing about gas particles has to do with the following. When gas particles are heated up, they move around faster and faster, and they start to collide more. When they collide strongly enough, they'll stick together and then pull apart, which actually increases their viscosity. So let's go to the next slide and we'll come back to this. So motor oil is a really important consideration for people when it comes to viscosity. In colder temperatures, there's 1, 2, 3 different types of motor oil, something called 10W. Then there's a multi-grade, which is 10W to 30W, and then there's the SAE 30. And what do you notice in cold temperatures? The SAE 30 would be no good as a motor oil because it would freeze up. However, let's look at hot temperatures. Multi-grade would work well. The SAE 30 would work okay, but the SAE 10W wouldn't work very well because it would be way too thin. It would be way too thin. So temperature and viscosity works something like this. The colder the fluid, the closer the particles are. The closer they're packed together, the stronger their attractive forces, and the slower the stronger the attractive forces, then the greater the viscosity. Again, one of the tricky things that you sort of have to associate with viscosity is flow rate is how we measure viscosity. How quickly the fluid flows, that's flow rate. And so how are these two related is something like this. We would say a substance that has high viscosity means it's thick, which means it would have a low flow rate. Honey is a good example of a substance. At 20 degrees Celsius, it would be very thick. It would flow really slowly. So let's go on. Here's an experiment we're going to do to measure the flow rate of different substances. We can drop a marble into different liquids and time how long it takes for the marble to reach the bottom. The longer it takes for the marble to reach the bottom, In other words, the slower it goes, the greater the viscosity. So which one of these three liquids do you think would cause the marble to take the longest to flow through? That's right. If you guessed honey, you're right. Honey has a high viscosity, which means it has a slow flow rate. Let's look at another clip to also look at how temperature and viscosity are related. Temperature and viscosity. Where's my YouTube clip? Here's one that we can compare. So let's take water at, or not water, let's take corn syrup at 20 and compare it to corn syrup that's really hot. And let's see how long the marble takes to drop. Okay, let's make corn syrup a little colder. Let's take honey. So honey at 14, honey at 70. There you can see how long it's taking. So that gives you a good idea how temperature also affects viscosity. The higher the temperature of the liquid, the quicker it flows. However, gases are the exception, as I said before. Gases, when we heat them up, they're going to move around faster and faster and faster, and they're going to bump into each other, collide more, and stick, therefore slowing them down. So that's my quick lesson on viscosity. Just as a review again, there's a few things. The particle theory helps us explain the viscosity of substances. As temperature goes up for liquids, viscosity goes down. In other words, the flow rate increases. But as temperature increases for gases, the viscosity also increases, which means the gas flows a little bit slower. Hope you enjoyed the viscosity lesson.